Everyday life issues broken down to help you build your own opinions on the issues that matter most. Coming to you from Austin, Texas, this is The Deciding Factor with your host, Alton Hill and John Herzog.
Hey everyone, I am John, and here is my buddy Alton sitting next to me.
What's up, y'all?
We are actually doing a show for the first time in video, so we'll see how it turns out. But today's show is actually going to be what does it take to become a successful entrepreneur? And we actually have a guy that's going to be joining us here. His name is Mike Watts. He is an experienced entrepreneur who has 6 startup companies under his belt, including founding 3 consecutive multi-million-dollar companies in the last 10 years. Mike has also successfully exited those 3 companies from his, including one that he sold for over $6 million, and even struck a deal with Daymond John from Shark Tank. If any of y'all remember him, I believe he also did FUBU, right?
Yeah, he's pretty famous guy.
Yeah, so what was really cool is we found this guy, and he's also here in Texas. He actually goes to College Station and is a guest professor for Texas A&M. Unfortunately, I'm a Longhorn fan, so I'll let you slide on that one. But he is also the active CEO of LoveHandles, as the fastest growing American manufacturer of patent custom smart grips. They're like the pop sockets, but it's slightly different, right? And so he was also listed in the Fortune 5000. Mike is currently launching his own business podcast, The Mike Watts Show, which we'll get into as well. He focused on sharing details of his stories and failures and successes throughout his startup journeys, accumulating in actionable and practical advice and inspiring entrepreneurs. He also actually is doing constant, what do you call them? You're giving speeches constantly, right?
Yeah, it seems to be that a lot of that these days, a keynote speaker.
Yeah, keynote speaker. Sorry.
That's the kind of where you get paid.
Nice. We're still working on that. But, Mike, it's really great to have you visiting with us. And, man, we have been looking forward to this. I know we've been kind of playing phone tag and everything, but glad you're on.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here, Alton. And John, I appreciate the opportunity to share the story. I always listen to fellow Texans too, all the better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we're in Austin, and it sounds like you're in Houston, and we'll go ahead and post your address on the links below. So make sure y'all go and bug him.
Definitely. So stop on by.
So how's life been? Especially, you've got your company, and we've got COVID that hit. Are y'all still actually pumping out strong?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a bumpy road. Coming out of the gates in January, 2020 was shaping up. This is our 6th year in business, and 2020 was shaping up to be our best year yet by a long shot.
Wow.
And we hit the trade show circuit real hard. I actually did 13 different trade shows before COVID. And so I pretty much living on the road, and we had tons of big orders. We do a lot of promotional products, so other brands that want to put their logo on our phone grip, or we'll put their logo on our phone grip for them, and then they'll give it away at trade shows. We found this way to attach it to business cards, so that kind of is like a business card plus a gift. Wow. And it got to be very popular. But then all of a sudden, it came to a screeching halt because trade shows are canceled. And so nobody has any personal interaction to give things away. And so we had to pivot our business over to our retail side, which fortunately was starting to take off. And it's particularly the e-commerce side with Amazon, and our own LoveHandle.com is really doing well. And so, we have like a half manufacturing and half marketing, sales, admin. But then when COVID hit, we had to quarantine. We were all under mandatory quarantine, like I'm sure you guys were. And so we all went home, and we tried to figure out how to work from home. And there's only so much you can do from a manufacturing standpoint. And so I actually kind of got to get back to my roots, because I've done every job here. So I call myself the janitor, because I just kind of clean up and do everything. But it got to be me and my 2 sons, who both work here, and my dad. And we were up here, even my wife and daughter were here during that time, because we had to make some jobs that were critical for some retailers. We sell to Academy Sports, and they needed product because they stayed open during COVID because they sell guns, which are absolutely necessary. And so we stayed working, but it was just us as a family. So we call ourselves the quarantine, and we kept rolling. But since then, we're back in business, and we're able to, safely work with, we're all donning, our masks everywhere we go, and hand washing stations everywhere, and trying to do the best we can. And so just yesterday, we had an actual case of COVID for somebody that had got tested last week that wasn't even here then. But precautionary, we closed, and so it's quiet outside the side of the studio here.
Yeah,
we'll be reopening Monday now that we've sanitized, and we're very confident that we'll be back in business. But it's been a bumpy, wild 2020 to start.
Oh, yeah. That 2020 is when we started our podcast due to a lot of this COVID stuff. And, there's definitely some positives to it, but definitely some rough spots for everyone. But it's good that you're still going. And I did check out your product. I can never have anything attached to my cell phone because I've got little kickstands and everything. So I was looking at yours, and of course my daughters have the pop sockets, and they're obsessed with them. So it was kind of cool to see yours. Now you can actually do all sorts of flipping things with it. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's a low profile. This is in the package, but this is the original LoveHandle. And then we also have like an XL version too for tablets, and this will actually hold a laptop too. So we use like a space age 3M adhesive on the back. It's literally the same stuff that they use on airplane wings to hold it together. And so it comes with a little kit too for glass backs and silicone. But we were able to get it really well on there, but it's super thin and allows you to hold your phone with one finger.
Yeah,
which is great because who wants to drop their $1,000 iPhone? You could flip it around the back of your hand, be hands-free, ride a bike or hold a beer, whatever you got going. And you're not going to drop your phone. Selfies, videos, all that stuff becomes easier. It's thin, works with wireless charging. So that's a kind of a bonus feature. It just charges right through it. And so it's been wildly popular. People that use it kind of never go back. And it's funny that along the way, when we first started the company 6 years ago, nobody put anything on their phone. And that was our number one challenge. It was like trying to come up to somebody and say, hey, here's a phone grip. They're like, why do I need it? I've got my hand. Why do I need your product? People don't stick things on the back of their phone.
I'm guilty of that too.
Right. I don't do that. But I got something to show you later, John, for sure. You're gonna want this one.
Okay.
It hasn't even released.
So I gotta put us on pause here for a second because we're all on video here. But if you're listening to the podcast, just to be clear, this is like a little loop thing that just sticks to the back of your phone. And I want to be clear that what Mike is showing us is the one that he has a Texas flag. So he already sold me I'm like a 6th generation Texan, so you got me.
But he forgot to tell you there's a deciding factor one coming out, and that's going to be the number one seller he's going to have.
I'm sure that'll be.
It's going to be limited edition. It'll be a hot item, I know.
Through the roof.
Platinum edition, right?
So Mike, I want to ask you something a little bit about with the coronavirus, and you said the word pivot, which to me and my understanding, like that's a big deal right now because of, in my mind, it's like this black swan thing that happened that no one was really expecting. I mean, maybe we anticipated some amount of shakeup, some stock market correction or something, but the entire planet shutting down, I didn't hear that prediction. And so I think that left a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners sitting here going, okay, what do I need to do to keep this thing going? And would you mind just speaking into that pivot? Like, what does that really look like to you? Was that you're up at 2 a.m. with your wife going like, how are we going to manufacture when we can't manufacture? Or, kind of take us through how you approach that and maybe even your mindset around it. Is it, oh no, we're all going to die? Or look at this opportunity we have. What can we do with it?
Yeah, it's funny that you bring up the mindset because, I feel like I've been in training for the last 15 years as an entrepreneur for this exact time because there's been so many, not coronaviruses, but, product failures or lost this major account or, lawsuits or whatever might have come our way that seemed like it was the end of it all, right? And if you weren't mentally prepared to deal with that, and I've had some tilted moments along the way where I didn't handle things well. But to be a successful entrepreneur, you got to know that you're climbing a mountain, and you're going to, sometimes the rope's going to slip and you're going to fall for a little ways, and hopefully you can catch yourself and climb back up. But what's really the defining factor of success in my mind is that delta between when an event outside of your control happens and the moment that you start moving back towards your goal, or maybe a new goal, because the goal's now shifted, right? Because you're in a different position than you were before. And knowing that the same thing happened, at least in this case, it happened to everyone.
Yeah.
And so everyone had this same setback. So it's an opportunity really to set yourself up for better success relative to your competition. And of course, you don't want negative things to befall your competition. That's not the goal, but the goal is to win. And I'm a very competitive person. I'm the guy on Peloton that's, trying to win every single time and get first place. And that drive is very, very useful as you become an entrepreneur and you work towards success, helps you get up every day. But the mindset is critical, that you almost expect things like this to happen. And when they do, you're not surprised. You're not emotionally drained. You're like, okay, it's like it's like trying to figure out, an algebra problem or trigonometry. It's like, okay, here's our problem. Don't know how to solve it right now, but let's just pick out the pieces we can fix now, and we'll keep working our way through it. And it's a process. And I don't care if you're dealing with how to make products, because when I first started, my very first startup, the one I sold for, so much money, I didn't even know how plastics were made at all, but I was planning to make a plastic product. I just figured it out and just kind of start charging in. And if you have that mindset that I can learn it, especially today, because all the information is at your fingertips, more so than it's ever been, then you can find success if you just never, ever give up.
Wow. So plastics, it's funny you mentioned that, because right as soon as I got out of high school, my mom was working at a religious supplies warehouse. So they made those little communion cups, and they were only one out of 5 in the world. So I grew up around these molding machines and everything, and it's unique. So you had all these, what was it, gaylords of plastic beads? Were you scaled back that far?
Yeah, well, I learned what gaylords of plastic beads were. I didn't know where plastic came from. Like it apparently comes from oil. They turn the beads, and believe the beads they put in, they melt it down and they put it inside a cap. Here's the actual, this is the product that kind of made me and turned our corner.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those.
Wait, say it again.
Yeah, you
and
probably seen it at the
describe
store. They still sell them at Academy and Walmart and Home Depot, but not Academy. Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, Ace Hardware, places like that. But it's a pivoting line trimmer head. We had a very successful TV commercial that I wrote, and
so that's like for a weed whacker.
We were making not just plastic pieces, but plastic pieces that are going to spin at 12,000 RPMs.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember seeing these ads, and I was, even, what was it, a month ago, I was looking for a weed whacker, and I was thinking, what about those hard ones that you don't have to keep replacing or anything? It's just beats the crap.
Okay, well, let's talk into that a little bit. So, Mike, you just admitted that you didn't know anything about plastic. So what in the world were you thinking that you're going to make this business, this product, but you don't know anything? Who are you to think that you can do this?
He sounds pretty
halfway
serious.
Jokingly, right? But
no, that's a great. It's a great question.
That,
for sure.
It's the mental blocks. I'm in this goal setting class right now, and we're talking about, hey, what's the goal for next 3 months? And I said something like the number 10, and then this other person in the class was like 1 million, and I just sat there and I was like, well, why didn't I say 1 million? And I had to think into. I mean, it's a different business, but still, I'm like, why didn't I say 1 million? And I think that if you're going to start a business, you're going to scale a business, someone who's been successful, what is that process that's happening that enables you to really think big like that?
Well, it's funny. The other day, my wife said something to me about, what did she say? She was talking about false confidence. She's like, because I was talking about something. She's like, says, you just have false confidence. Ouch. I was like, no. In fact, I wrote it down because this is going to be a chapter in my book one day. Like, there is no false confidence. There is only confidence. You know, I know you talk about political, but look at the president. You know, it's guy got elected with just unabashed confidence.
Yeah.
You know, and some people would look at it and say false confidence, whatever, but confidence is something that you decide. And if you decide to limit your confidence in your ability to do anything, it's because you've allowed someone else to put that limitation on you. And, you know, that's so common, right? And it could have been your parents that said, you know, for our family, this is all it's really reasonable, right? Reasonable is another one of those key words. This is what's reasonable, right? 10 is reasonable. 1 million, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's all relative. And so, you know, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll be among the stars, all that stuff. Like, aim big. Go for if you only get one shot at this life, like, shoot big and just have confidence in yourself and that you can figure things out and know you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And that you're going to be able to learn through the process and just get onto the dance floor. And so many people sit on the side waiting for the perfect moment and the perfect information. And the problem is that when you do that, time is against you. And time's the one resource that you can't get back and you can't amplify. So the key is just to just go forward with what you know in the direction you think you're going to go, and start to have just an appetite for learning on things that you're going to need to know to get you to your goal.
So let's go back to your weed whacker idea. Before you actually jumped into it and launched it and everything, I'm going to assume you weren't rich, or were you rich? Like, what? Not at all?
No. You know, I grew up, you know, the very beginning, grew up in a trailer park.
Okay.
And then, my parents worked hard and they provided what they could for me, and they did a great job. But I went the traditional way. I ended up, you know, graduated high school pretty well, top 10%, just barely. I think it was 10.1, so I was out. But I made it into A&M, which, you know, it's hard to do, unlike those other schools in Texas. You know, anybody.
Hey. Well,
but I made it in there, and I was following the traditional path, right? You know, go to college, get a good job. And so I did that. I went to college and I got a good job. Now, along the way, I always liked to have money, and my parents didn't have that extra money to give me, right? And so I had a job the entire way from the time I was 15 until the time I took my, you know, job offer from the electric company in Houston. It was 13 different jobs I had because they get bored easily, right? But I think that's a good quality. So if anybody's out there listening and you get bored easily, you know, congratulate yourself, because, you know, you are the type of person that has the qualifications to be successful on your own, because you have an appetite for learning and constant stimulation. That's a good thing.
He called me successful. Remember that, Alton.
Hey, I got one box checked now.
Yeah. Woo, finally somebody. Yes. So, you know, then I went and got my corporate job, and I did that. Like, I gave it my all for about 7 years. And, you know, kept thinking that and they did recognize me some, and they moved me up some. They moved me from being an engineer to public relations because I like to talk so much, and they just put me in front of a microphone and started giving speeches. But it was about electric safety and things like that, and deregulation as it happened. But they wouldn't compensate me, proportionally to the amount of value that I was bringing, especially if I looked in the cubicles around me and said, okay, let's stack these contributions up, right? It's like, well, not this year. How about a 3% raise?
Yeah.
Next year, not this year. How about a 3% raise? And I felt like it wasn't even a glass ceiling there. I was on a 33rd floor of a skyscraper in downtown Houston. It was a concrete ceiling, and I could see it. And I couldn't go north of that until I'd been there a certain amount of time, knew there was a certain amount of people, and needed to be a certain age to even reasonably move up that building. And it was just so frustrating to me. And so my wife and I, she had our first child. It was the year 2000, Y2K. Computers didn't melt down, but we had our baby, and all my priorities changed. She handed me a Rich Dad, Poor Dad book that Oprah Winfrey had Robert Kiyosaki on. And she saw this, and she bought the book for me, gave it to me, read the book, changed my life, said, we're starting a business.
Yes.
And we did. We started selling products at craft fairs. And this was the very first one. This is the last package I have of this product that we were selling. This is my first brand, Rain Sorb. I sold this company for $6,000.
Craft crystals?
About 4 years after I started it. And then they're just little polyacrylamide crystals that will soak up water. So if anybody's seen Orbeez out there that people, kids play with them and they shoot them out of guns.
They stole them from you.
That. Maybe so. Yeah.
Sounds
I
like
used to
a
go
lawsuit.
to Austin over there to the Palmer Auditorium and sell at the home and garden shows. And that was our weekend gig. So the advice here is that, start one step at a time. I didn't quit my job. I was doing stuff on the side. And then we started traveling every weekend, every holiday, few sick days here. And we started traveling around and doing a side hustle. And that's where I ran into the guy that invented this product that was the pivot trim. Realized that finally there's a product that I can control because he had some intellectual property and patents. And so that's when finally I mortgaged mortgaged our house, or put all our chips in the middle, quit our job, and off we went.
Wow. Okay. So this wasn't your idea. This was a guy you met and you decided you were going to be his partner and scale it for him. Wow.
That's right. Yeah. In fact, I'm not smart enough to come up with my own inventions. I have to find people that have these golden nuggets. And then I'm a great marketer, but these guys are great inventors. And then by sort of partnering up, they can keep inventing. So then he developed new trimmer heads that we launched later on and are still available today. And I was able to keep marketing. And so it's like a marriage, where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That partnership between marketer or licensee and licensor is really seemed to work well. So I've done that 3 times.
So speak into that a little bit more for those of us who may be in that camp, that they're not as smart as maybe an inventor, but they might be able to help market. What did that look like? And tell us, how did you find that guy? I mean, how did that relationship come together?
I can tell you it wasn't over Tinder. That's
not Tinder. No. It was interesting. I was
video ad.
It happened. I'll paint the picture. I was it was in Houston at the Houston Home and Garden Show, the big one that they have in the springtime. And at that point, I kept adding products, right? So I had these crystals, but I was the only one that could really sell those because I was like literally Billy Mays pitch guy. Yeah. I had the microphone, I had lights, I was elevated up. Nobody was getting past me without getting a hard pitch. They were going to have to tell me no, right? In the early days, I would close them and I would hand them over to my wife. She would swipe the card, and our 2-year-old would be under there watching VeggieTales under the table. Nobody was the wiser. That was our life. And we hustled it together, made it happen. But then I started adding, we had a yard decorations, those little butterflies, those crappy butterflies, you see them on a stick, The wind blows and the wings flap. I started importing those from China. And then I was able to scale that out and distribute that to other people because that was pretty easy to sell. So I had other people working under me at other shows as a win-win proposition. I would book the booth in Atlanta, find a couple in Atlanta that wanted a weekend gig, provide the product to them. They would do the show, pay me for whatever they sold, and then ship me back anything they didn't sell. And then it worked out great. So I was able to scale my efforts. But all that to say, I was at this show, the biggest show of the year in my hometown. I had 5 different booths in there, people all over the place. I also had these wooden airplanes, these cars, motorcycles I was bringing in from Vietnam. I used to set those up in the malls at Christmas time, kiosks. And I had those there, little replicas of F-16 fighters and Shelby Cobras and stuff. And so I had that. So I had this stuff all over the building. And then, of course, I had my Rain Sorb because I was still the only guy that could actually sell the stuff. And so that was my kind of home booth. And I was going to check on all my other booths, and I walked back to my home booth, and just one aisle over was this guy, Orlando Jerez from New Orleans, who had driven over and had this product. And it was a much cruder version. This is a simpler version, the easier to make version.
Yeah.
But his demonstration was what it was all about. He had a plexiglass box with a chain link fence on the inside, and he had an electric weed eater with this head on it, and he was hitting it against the fence unabashedly, grinding it on the fence, and the line wasn't breaking. that very morning I had fought with my weed eater and knew that whatever he had going here, I needed it first for myself. And once I started talking with him and understand that he had invented this, now like kind of light bulbs went off. I was like, oh, here we go. And his light bulbs went off too, because he had trouble selling his idea. He knew it was good. He didn't know what to do with it. But here, and then I took him around the show and said, look, this is my product, and this is my product, and this is my product. And he's like, we should work together. And as it turned out, the next week they had like back-to-back shows for some weird reason. So he came back the next week. I had an extra big booth, so I gave him half of it for free. So I was like, me and him need to work a deal.
Yeah.
And Friday, I'm there Friday setting up. The show opens at 2:00. I'm behind the table at 2:00, and I poke my head up like this, and in walks my boss from the electric company. Now, I'm supposed to be at work that day.
Oh, somebody got fired.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, so how was that conversation?
It was very short. He looked at me and he took a photograph and he said, I've seen everything I need to see, and turned around and walked out.
That was it? Or did he know you were moonlighting and he was checking in on you? How did that happen?
I think I got ratted out by some coworkers that knew what was happening. A little jealousy maybe, but and trust me, I always did my job there more than my job. But nonetheless, it was a divine moment, because I looked over at Orlando and I said, man, I think I just got fired. And I'll never forget, he looked at me and goes, well, we better make a deal then.
Yes. Yes.
So that gave him the upper hand because he knew you were losing your job now.
Maybe so. But I think he liked the idea that I was now going to be able to focus all my attention on his product if we didn't make a deal.
So you talked about confidence, but it also sounds like there's kind of some luck involved, because you just happened to be at the right place at the right time to meet this guy.
Well, he didn't just happen to be there. Dude's grinding.
That's true.
Calling in sick, going to these trade shows. Wasn't no accident. And he's loading it all up in his truck. Right? I mean, shipping stuff to Atlanta.
Well, yeah. No, look, there was a lot going on. And I'll say it like this. That the previous show where I found him, I was not the only person at that show. In fact, there was 30,000 people that went to that show. I was the only one out of 30,000 people that saw the opportunity with him.
Boom,
right? And the reason I knew it was an opportunity is because I was in the game, and I'd seen the frustration with selling these yard decorations was awesome, man. I was turning cash like crazy. I'd go out and do a really good show. I'd walk back home with 10 grand in cash.
Wow.
I had a pumpkin at home that had $30,000 in it at one point, right? In cash. And we reported all that income for sure. But the point was,
sure.
I like you more and more, Mike.
Show, and there would be somebody selling the same stuff, because every single one had a little tag hanging off at the end of it with their manufacturer's name. And so they were like, oh, look at all that money that guy's making. I want to do that too. And they would show up, and now it's a price war and nobody wins. So when I saw this product and said he said he had some patents pending on it, I said, okay, well now finally I can put my effort into something, to an idea, to a product that delivers value to the world, and that nobody's going to go out and steal it from me.
Yeah. So going back to why I asked if you were rich when you first started, is because I, like several other people that are wanting to be entrepreneurs, we get this idea or this company that we want to start, and we start researching, we build this business plan, we've got the model, bam, we hit a wall. How are we going to get this thing started? I mean, it can be as simple as 50,000, or maybe it goes up to, $500,000 just to get your business going. How do you get past that wall if you are not financially set?
I'll borrow a line from Uncle Daymond John, who says, take affordable steps, right? You don't have to complete your business plan in one fell swoop. You need to peel off a small, provable section of it that you can take on, and that if it fails, that you're not going to be out of business completely, right? So it's not a race. know that it's a marathon. It might be a race, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so just try to find something you can do to move yourself closer to where you want to be, but without breaking the bank. And, money is one of those things that it's a problem like anything else. And, it's a solvable problem. Now it might be Kickstarter, or it might be you bring in investors, or it might be that you just, lower your short-term goal to fit the budget that you do have. But it's just another piece of data out there for you. If you can just focus on finding a way to deliver value in the right way to the end user, whether it's a service or a product, then that value will come back to you, and then you can scale that up.
So, another reason I bring this up is Alton actually shared an article with me, and he keeps rubbing it in my face all the time. He says, there's an infinite amount of money out there. You just have to get it. And that's what he always says with me. And I'm just like, okay, how do you do that? And you had mentioned you sold your house, I think? You mortgaged your property. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. Was there any other tricks to it, or was that pretty much it, and then you took off?
So the details of that were, and again, Alton's right? There's always a way. But for me personally, when I worked for the electric company, we had a pension back in the day when they actually had pensions. So I cashed my pension. From the day I got out of college, I was maxing my 401k, right? So I took a huge loan against my 401k, which I saved over the 7 years, and it had gone up. And then I had been saving. I had my pumpkin, with my cash in it that I had saved up. And then I partnered with my dad, who had some resources, right? And then turns out, this is a big deal about relationships. Everything comes down to people in the end, right? So in our building, I was the weird guy that always cashed his check. Like everybody else had direct deposit. I had a physical check, and I would literally take the check on payday, and I would go downstairs and I would cash the entire thing. And I would stand in the bank lobby and hold my money because I needed that affirmation.
I love it.
And then I would keep a couple hundred, put it in my pocket, and then I would put it back and deposit it. And the bank manager thought I was hilarious for doing this. He thought this was the funniest thing ever. Well, it turns out I'm sharing my plans with him, got to know him really well. Well, when this happened, this was back in Washington Mutual days. So it was a Washington Mutual branch. And you could go down at that time and do a signature loan for $50,000, stated income loan. He's like, okay, well, fill it out this way, and we can give you $50,000. You have to pay it back, but I was like, okay, great. So there's $50K plus my pumpkin plus my pension, and then dad. And so now we're 50-50, and we cobbled together about $200,000 between the two of us. And we needed it because we spent $50,000 on a lawyer just to hash out this deal. These lawyers.
Wow.
And then Orlando, he knew he had a good idea. And he was already $70,000 into his patent work, right? He'd already spent $70,000. So he wanted that money back. If I was going to take over the patents, he needed that money back. So we had to write him a check for $70K. $50K went to the attorney. So we started out at $120 in the hole. And so we had to start the business operationally with only $80. And we did run out of money later. And that's where we reached out to aunt, uncle, grandparents, brother. Everybody pitched in. Turned out to be an excellent valuation for them, because when we sold the company, that was a big party. And so that's, but each along the way, we just like blind faith, if you will. I'm a Christian guy, so I just feel like God's constantly like opened doors for me as I've gone through this process, and he kind of keeps me at bay. He keeps my bank account, pretty thin typically, because it keeps me humble. But, you just got to swing the bat. You're not ever going to know for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. So, Mike, you mentioned confidence, right? And now you use the word faith. And then you said that you convinced your dad to jump in on this venture with you. So I have 4 daughters. John's got kids too. You've got children. if we want to raise children with that entrepreneurial spirit, that not false confidence, right? And that faith that they can do it and they don't need to see those roadblocks. Like, can you tell us a little bit, maybe some of the things that your parents did or things that you're doing with your children, other than the Veggie Tales under the under the table that, that maybe other people, because it sounds like you're starting this, right? Like you were raised, like you said, in the trailer park, and now lifestyle is probably a little different now. And so, what should we do as parents to pass that on?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. And for all the parents out there, just know that it's really simple. Like the basic needs of your children, is that they're loved first, right? And you have to know that you're loved and really believe that you're loved to have that self-confidence we talked about earlier to move ahead. But then about part of that is that you just speak life into them and tell them, because if they don't hear you say that you can accomplish anything, then they don't know that they can accomplish anything. The words of a parent are the only words that really matter the most to a child, in my opinion. And so if they hear that time and time again, you're amazing, you're so talented, you're so smart, you can do anything that you want and you set your mind to, and I believe in you. You know what's going to happen? They're going to believe you.
Hey, I'm feeling pumped right now.
I know, right? I'm thinking back.
But that's true.
Like, it is. For sure.
And if you have that self-confidence, that is so powerful. Whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you work in corporate America, you're going to be the person in the room that people gravitate to, that they ask, advice from, because most people don't have that and they crave it. And so it's so important as a parent that you plant those seeds of confidence in your kids. And my parents did that, my mom especially. And then I kind of skipped over the story about my parents. My dad left Dow Chemical. He worked out for 25 years, and they gave him a package out one day, right? The whole social contract between the corporation and the employee is gone. It was really gone for him too. But he took his money and invested it in tables and chairs and margarita machines. And he started a party rental business with my mom that's today very operational. It's the largest in the southern Houston region. And my mom and my brother run that business, and then me and my dad run LoveHandle. But they were the first to step out in that entrepreneurial space. And my dad always kids around that he used to go around selling rocks. People just felt sorry for him because he thought they were cool, but they would just feel sorry for him and pay him. But he's always kind of had that hustle too.
That's like, what was it? Kawasaki. What was it? The toothpaste? He was taking the nickel from.
That man. Molding nickels, right?
Yeah, felony charges right away at a young age. Yeah. So then I guess let's talk about your current company, the LoveHandle. This is the one where you signed the deal with Daymond, and he's one of the guys on Shark Tank. But this wasn't done on Shark Tank. You signed a deal with him on the side, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a neat story. This was my third licensed product. And fortunately, I had all this experience that I could take to the inventor to convince him to give me the rights to his patents, because he knew he had a winner. Yeah. And was making these things in his basement in Minnesota. A friend of mine brought me the product on a Friday. I didn't think much of it. I was like, I don't stick stuff on my phone, typical answer. Saturday, I'm laying on the couch, and I got my phone above my head, and I'm not dropping it on my face. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And Sunday, I got my phone flipped around the back of my hand, and I'm holding beer, watching football. And I'm like, okay, well, here's a winner. I like this product. Monday, again, this is just like the trade show. Monday, I'm on a flight to go meet this guy. Wow. Had dinner with him and his wife that Monday evening. By Friday, we had a deal put together, and it took another couple of weeks to get it all executed. I moved quick. When I finally knew I had a product that I have a list of attributes that I try to find in a product, and it was 10s across the board. Nice. And I was like, got to go hard at this, whatever it takes. he knew he had something big, 6+ figures to get this one under my control. But again, it's been an amazing partnership. And so we were 4 years in before we ever worked with Daymond. So it was us, him back in his workshop. And what was cool about this partnership particularly is John Murphy is his name, lives in Minnesota, and the smartest guy I've ever met. And yes, I know Daymond, and this guy's smart.
Wow.
He's that smart. He not only designed and built this product, and the other one I'll show you, which is a private release, hasn't even gone to the public yet, and I'll show you guys, and you can show your audience a really cool
nice
LoveHandle Pro teaser. But it's he built the automation equipment that we use because we needed to reshore our product. We had gotten some very frustrating and consistently frustrating product out of China, and they kept cutting corners, and I had to push $500,000 worth of product into the dump.
Ooh.
Because they cheapened the glue. And there's not Walmart. You can't walk back over there with the receipt and stand in line and get a refund. It doesn't work that way. So we said, we just committed that day. They're like, okay, well, we're gonna find a way to make it here. And Johnny's like, he's just like, again, false confidence. But he comes through every time. Yeah. He's like, I can build that machine, no problem. The first 2 machines did not work at all. The third machine kind of worked, and the fourth machine worked really good. So now we have 3 of those assembly machines that he designed and built. It's like Tinker Toys up there.
Yeah.
But with Arduino circuits and 80/20 and they work, and each one of those machines can produce 1,500 LoveHandles in perfect quality an hour. So we have the ability now to produce 50,000 complete LoveHandles, 100% American made. We sourced all of our elastic from Rhode Island, one of the last textile plants in America. We partnered with them to get our elastic. We make the plastic bases here in Houston. The 3M comes from Minnesota directly, the same place that the Boeing orders it from to build their airplanes.
Yeah.
And so we've taken all this stuff and we've created a 100% American made product, and not for the reasons that are so great today, which are the drama between the U.S. and China, but because we wanted the ability to get it under our roof so we can make sure to make the best product so that we could put our brand on it and believe in it. But what we didn't realize at the time, that would allow us to navigate quickly, because in China, you've got to say, okay, well, I want this, Texas flag print, right? Well, how many do you want? Well, it's 30,000 minimum per design. So I'll take 30,000 and they'll be here in 6 months, right?
Yeah.
How do I know if there's even going to be a demand for that in 6 months? Instead, I can custom print these on demand in small batch for your podcast, or for a local tire shop,
right,
or for Samsung or Facebook, who are all customers of mine, and Google, like whoever wants to get their brand seen. Wow. And, or we can do like cute stuff like Kanye for president, whatever, like on trend.
That doesn't last long.
Right? Whether it's meme stuff or whatever, we can do that. And so, and then with a high quality and cheaper than I was paying in China.
Wow.
Because we've automated. And so I have a team of 26 people here, and about half in manufacturing and half in production, or in sales, marketing, admin, shipping, and graphic design. And so all that's been a process, figuring out how to build a team. Like this was easy. My customer would send me a purchase order for $400,000 worth of this product. I would then take that same sheet of paper, change the numbers, and send it over to China. And it would cost me about, this is the pivot trim for people listening, the pivot trim. And I would flip it over and I would take that purchase order and I would send it over to China for $50,000. And I would keep $350 and I would ship it directly from China to my customer. It was a paperwork shuffle, super easy, very, very easy.
Wow.
This is way more complicated, but way more rewarding, because there's people here, a culture here, an excitement here that I never was able to create. And so now I feel like we're creating a brand that stands for something. We're partnering with charities all the time, where we create a collection for, Folds of Honor, for fallen heroes, for Arthritis Foundation, for Multiple Sclerosis Society, like on and on. And then now we're partnering with artists from around the world. I had a lady this morning from the Philippines that turned in Thailand, that turned in a huge, really beautiful collection of designs that she had created for our product, and then we'll partner with her and feature her as a creator. So I'm trying to create what was just a simple little product and create a community and create a platform for collaboration, and so that it can become more and stand for more. And because it's such a common thing on the back of a smartphone and so visible, and people touch it and think about it every day. And so it's really exciting to go through this process, and it gets me out of bed every day with excitement, because there's going to be something new, some new challenge, and something bad's going to happen. Something good's probably going to happen too.
So how many are you selling, say, yearly?
At this point,
or is it easier to go monthly?
About 2 million units a year right now.
Wow.
But I'm shooting for 20 million next year. And I think I can get there with a few of the things that we're doing a test at CVS right now. So they have a lot of stores. They're putting us in 10 stores in their headquarters in Rhode Island to test it, and I think it'll do well. We created a whole collection around what we call our Love collection, and it's around it's the anti-racism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's on point, on trend. And so we've got a cool print that said racism with a red line, kind of like cancer with the line through it, right? So we got that. We got one that just says love, period. And a portion of proceeds from that, even at retail, go to support the George Thurgood, scholarship fund. And so and CVS is excited because they've never had a brand bring a fundraising retail product to them. And so they were excited about that too. So I feel like we're getting to be pioneers in ways, and just see where it goes.
So what got you to, okay, so you created LoveHandle, or even the Weed Whacker idea. When it came down to, hey, now I've got to figure out how I'm going to produce this and really scale it and everything, there's got to be a ton of research, or did you know somebody that kind of pointed you in the right direction?
It's a different answer for each one, but typically we would just find somebody that knows, right? There's somebody out there that knows whatever it is you need to know. Somebody out there knows it, and probably they're on YouTube. But if they're not on YouTube, then with a little bit of research and grit and charisma, you can find that person, and people want to share the information that they know, the knowledge that they bear. And especially if it's a win-win, like for the pivot trim, we found a manufacturer in our town. And now, could I have found a cheaper injection molder? Probably, but I wanted somebody I could learn from.
Yeah.
So we were there every single day watching our product get injection molded. We would watch the plastic beads get melted down, and we started playing around with different levels of fiberglass. So you can mix fiberglass in with the nylon. We used nylon, not regular plastic. So because it needed to be high impact, strong, so people are going to hit it on their concrete, running 12,000 RPMs. And so we started learning and then we didn't put enough ribs in there the first time. So we started testing it, and broke apart. Well, these guys were smart about that stuff. They're like, well, you need to put some reinforcements here and here and here and here. So that's what we did. Now it doesn't break anymore. Great. So there's an improvement. Oh, you need to stop using wood screws. You need to use this type of screw, because otherwise it's going to, okay, great. So we'll fix that too. And it's just one thing after another, after another. It's a constant improvement. And I always tell people, like, you're on a hill, whether you think it or not. There's no flat roads. Even the Peloton guys are like, we're on a flat road. It's like, no, I'm pedaling here. I'm not coasting. My road is a coast.
Yeah.
So it's, if you're not climbing, then you're sliding backwards. So you just need to be constantly climbing.
When you told us that story about how you took the guy's idea, the guy that already had the idea, it makes me think back in high school. We had a science project, and it was who could launch a golf ball with a pendulum the farthest. So I grew up with a guy named Richard Powell at my church, and he invented a pitching machine that is now owned by King Griffey Jr. and the Academy and all this other stuff, right? So I got him right at the beginning, and he helped me build my little. It had to fit on the desk, and that's the biggest requirement. It had to be small in impact. Man, I crushed it. People were struggling to get 10 yards, 20 yards. We were out on the field, and I said, somebody's got to go way back there to catch this one, because we're nowhere near. And so I went last, and we launched it, and it went 150 yards. It was out of the park, and we were just like, it was over. It was over. So I stole his idea, but hey. I didn't get to scale it like you got to with your companies here.
But you found the right guy. That's exactly the point. It's a perfect.
Didn't cost me anything either. We just decided to break a whole bunch of stuff while we were testing it. So
yeah,
right.
So Mike, tell us just real quick. I mean, it sounds like you've got some really solid momentum going. What do you see down the road for you?
Well, for me personally, I'm excited about what we're doing right here, because I feel like I've got, if I don't share the story of my journey and hopefully inspire some other folks to take risks and put themselves out there, then it'll all be lost. And I also know that the cool thing is that with the digital media, this audio recording and video we have right now, I'm going to go ahead and wave, because one day my great-great-grandchildren are going to get to see this.
Amen.
And they won't have known me, but they'll kind of know me now.
Yeah.
And so how cool is that? So I want my next chapter to be storytelling, teaching, whatever it is. Like yesterday I had a class, and took a digital entrepreneur class. They were all over the country, middle schoolers that
awesome.
were interested in Shark Tank and entrepreneurship. And they had great questions, and they're extremely diverse. And so I was able to, take my story. I have to bring the dialogue down a bit for them, but it's still the same story. And so to me, it's exciting. I think there's probably a book, and, maybe more speaking and stuff, but hopefully I can be successful at that.
Yeah. I think I've done a couple of career days at the kids' school down there, and I won't bore you with too many details, but like what you said with our children, our own blood, they're listening to their parents. When I'm at the career day, I'm looking out at the kids, and I'm thinking, maybe this is, this little conversation about running your own business and believing in yourself, like maybe this is the only time that these kids get to hear it, so for you, talking to these young entrepreneurs or kids, I mean, that might be the spark that, 10, 15 years from now, they remember you. And we just never know the impact that we have. A little thing can go so far. So that's really cool that you're doing that.
So thanks.
So, you've been very successful thus far, and it doesn't sound like it's going to end anytime soon, but at what point do you say enough is enough, it's time to retire, or is this just going to become an addiction the rest of your life?
If I knew, I could tell you. I really don't. I do know that I want to surf more than I've gotten to. I love surfing.
Can't do that in Texas.
I have got to go a lot, but I want to do more of it. And so I don't know if you guys have goals like written down that you look at, but this is anybody listening out there. It's a big core part of I feel like my success formula, especially recently, because running a business at this scale, it can be exhausting if you don't reset yourself every day. And so every morning I get up early, I have a routine, prayer, and I'm looking over my goals. And as part of that, I'm at the first top, it's just there's a lot of different places I want to see in the world that I haven't loved to travel. And that's more about just the experience, the cultural experience. My dad took me to Costa Rica when I was 15 to go surfing, because he likes surf too. He took me and my buddies down there, and it was the coolest experience of my life to date. And it really changed me, and it gave me this passion and it broadened my mind to see how other people live, and to see that they have warm water year round. That's awesome. And things like that. So I now want to see all these new places and experiences, and know that will take time and resources, especially the way that me and my wife like to travel. Somebody's got to sit up in the front, so might as well be us. So there's some of that involved, but in the end, I really am legacy focused, right? So the last thing on my list and my goals is that I'm going to lay on my deathbed knowing that I did the best I could with the time I had here.
Yeah, I love that.
And if you start each day looking from that point back, now today's a gift. right? It's a bonus round. And so that gratitude is the best fuel that you can put into your soul. And so to me, that's really important that I leave something behind. And that's why this digital media for me is, I love it. And I'll kind of say yes to anybody that wants to sit down and chat with me, because I love it. And I just think that we're all connected through here now. And it's just we'll see where it goes. But I can't wait to see actually how it all rolls out.
Yeah.
Nice. So speaking of the digital though, social media and everything is really key for entrepreneurs. What are some of those strategies? Because Alton won't share anything with me and it gets on my nerves.
So my advice on social, and I'm learning this myself, there's a couple things. And I've actually exhibited and sponsored at the Social Media Marketing World for the last 5 years. And every year I go there, I learn a lot. It's in San Diego. It's a great event. And what I've learned is that the more genuine you can be, the better off you are. Because if humans are good at anything, they're good at spotting bullshit, right? You just have to be yourself and not worry about judgment. Again, it's that false confidence. No, it's all just confidence. Some of the biggest influencers out there broke them all, like a Gary V, right? You can't say that on camera, Gary.
Yeah.
Apparently you can. Apparently you can. And you can become extremely famous by doing it, and there's a lot of examples and all kinds of, but he was being true to himself. That's who he was. He wasn't doing that to get your attention. That's who he was. Yeah. Or he is. And so that's really important. And then also consistency. Like people, they need to hear from you regularly on an ongoing basis. If you want to be successful in digital and social, you need to be showing up. And I'm not even that good. I'm good at my Instagram story, and that's about it. My main feed on my LinkedIn, I'm like, look at those and go, I should do more, but I'm busy running a company. So maybe one day I can put all that together or get somebody on my team that helps me put that together. But it's a process. But if you do those two things, be authentic and be consistent, then you're gonna find success.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
So would you say Facebook's the way to go, or is there a particular one you would shoot with, or all?
It depends on who you want to reach. I would narrow it down to, it depends on who you want to reach, right? In this realm, in this professional realm, I would say LinkedIn is probably the best place you can be. And it's for two reasons. One, that's where all the business-minded people are. And two, there's not that many people creating content on there.
Yep.
You go to Instagram, especially you go to Facebook, and there's people just piling content in there, like just constantly. Same thing in YouTube. It's just so deep. But you go to LinkedIn, and I'm not even that big a deal, right? But if I go put a video on LinkedIn, 50% of the time, it'll give me a notification a couple days later that I'm trending in the top of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's
really, because there just aren't that many players in the game. And so there's value in that. If you're going after the really young crowd, TikTok, but I think that you got to have you got to be kitschy and you got to be lucky. And I think the government might yank it anyway. So you may have it all wasted. So.
Oh yeah. So I think those are the main questions. What do you have left, Alton?
I don't know. I think how are we on time?
We're coming up on the 1 hour.
All right. Well, maybe let's do our deciding
factor. You think anybody's going to be upset that we didn't talk about Daymond John?
Oh, Daymond John. No, we did. We did talk about him earlier. Okay. Did you want to go more in depth?
Let me just paint a little 2-minute picture. Most people, like I had a dream that I was going to be on Shark Tank, and I was going to do it I was going to be on set and I was going to go pitch my product and we're going to make a deal and we're going to be happily ever after. And I got turned down twice in the second round. I made it through the first round of auditions, into the second round of auditions, and then got turned down to the second round. Third round, you're on set, right? Mm-hmm. Almost made it 2 years in a row. And then one day, after all that distraught sadness, I checked my website and there's an order from a company called the Shark Group on my website, which sounds like Shark Tank, but it's not. What is it? Google it. That's Daymond John's company. What? He's ordering my product from my website. And so I took that opportunity to build a relationship with his team, one by one by one, got them to love me, made a bunch of them with his book titles on there. With his, every time he come up with a new book, I would make him some love handles and send them to him. And next thing you know, he was already using the product, and it's a great product on its own without me. But he saw that effort. He saw that he loved the product and his team loved the product. And so he reached out to me. And then that's how we made a deal. So I made a deal with a shark without going on the tank. And my goal, and I think I'm going to be successful, is to be his number one investment, which he has the number one investment, Bombas. So, but I still want to be his personal number one investment and still not have actually been on Shark Tank, except backstage.
But then what would have happened if you'd have made it on the show? Maybe you would have been with Mark Cuban or something. It'd have been Texan and Texan. Well,
no, I mean, I've had dinner with Mark. He's great, but Daymond's my guy.
He is.
Daymond is the real, I mean, Mark's real too, right? But Daymond is out there hustling. He's coaching people in entrepreneurship. He is like the dream mentor. For me, for my next, you asked about my next step, doing these things, and like, he's the dream mentor because he's doing this exact thing. He's right up there with Gary Vee in like this influencer space and that whole community. Like, I'm in it now. Yeah. Like, I haven't earned my way into it yet, except through his path, but he respects me, and I respect him. And so I got to be family instead of an investment.
Yeah.
So that's super cool. It's been so much better.
And if you are watching this on YouTube later, Mike is not drinking on the job. He's actually got a funny little drink you've got there, right?
We wouldn't kick him off.
Yeah, people are, inventors come to me all the time with their next big thing. And so this is one we'll give them a free plug here. It's called Java Twist. Wow. Java Twist limeade and coffee.
So give us we talked about authenticity, Mike. Give us an authentic comment on how limeade mixed with coffee tastes. Because I love coffee and I love limeade, but I'm kind of not so sure about this drink.
Listen, when I first tried it, my taste buds said, what happened? Like, they didn't know. The limeade is excellent. Like, they're using I think they're using key limes in here. I'm not sure what the sweetener is, but it's very mild. So it's very good. Cold coffee has its own kind of natural bitter. I don't care how you cold brew it or whatever. It's got kind of a little bit of a bitter to it. So you got that. And it feels like it's two separate drinks in one. It's refreshing. And I do like the taste of coffee. So it's refreshing, where coffee has a difficult time being refreshing, I think.
Does it still wake you up?
Even though it's 100 degrees in our warehouse right outside the store, I had one yesterday. Well, I mean, that may be testimony. This is my third one, so I must like them well enough. And I like the effect of the caffeine, and I don't mind the coffee flavor, but I really like the lime and lemon. So I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10, which is way higher than I thought when I first heard that somebody decided to mix limeade and coffee. So it's worth a shot.
Interesting. So maybe more of an acquired taste. Do you find yourself liking it a little more the more you drink it, or?
Yes, that's to my surprise. I actually want to buy some now. So.
Well, there you go.
Well, we're going to have to come try it with you one day.
Come on down.
So let's do this. We'll do the deciding factor, and then we'll end it with you sharing this other product you kept teasing us about earlier. Sound good?
Sure.
All right. So it's going to be, I guess I'll kick it off. We'll let Alton do it, and then you can follow us up at the end and tell us everything we did wrong in our decision making here. So it's, what does it take to become, or what really makes you a successful entrepreneur? So one sec.
Now it's time for our deciding factor.
Gotta love the jams. So one thing you said at the very beginning, right? We started the show off. You said it was, or your wife said it was false confidence, right? And
I love your wife, by the way. Already, I can tell. I like your attitude.
Is she around or is she at home?
She's at home. It's a few miles away.
Man, she lucked out.
She'll watch this.
No, but so obviously the confidence has to be there. I think I've seen it, like you said, in Trump, whether you like him or not, that's what he excels in, is he's got confidence in anything he does, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And it seems like you did the same. The one thing I would add to that, though, is it seems like it's still that decision, right? And that's kind of what our show's always been about, is you make your decisions on companies, life, everything. The problem is you got to stick with them, good, bad, or indifferent. And then, as you said also in the beginning, is when something starts to go south, you've got to make the changes or you're going to end up really bad. So I would say those two things are probably the biggest factors in what I see to become a successful entrepreneur, because if you want to get past this wall that we talked about with the financing, you're going to have to be confident in your product, and then you've got to make that decision. You're going to do it no matter what. You're going to ask whoever you need to ask and make those connections, including when you had to go to Daymond or anyone else to build up to the next level of getting this product away from China into the U.S. That way you had more control and more scalability. So that's going to be my deciding factors, is confidence in decision making.
Yeah, I guess as far as speaking to, quote, successful entrepreneur, I would say the areas that I've had to grow the most in through my journey are probably the mental game of, number one, the openness to kind of be wrong and fail and not get like tied up with this one way that I think it should work, because that was how my plan was. And I guess in some ways just being open-minded to be like, okay, I hit a wall there. I need to try something else. But then this also, and I'm just going to throw public schools under the bus here or whatever, but like this idea of perfection. I've always wanted to do things the right way, and that there's a right way and a wrong way, and it has to be perfect. And I think that really kept me from quitting my 9-to-5 for a long time. And then even kind of that fear of failure, again, in the mental space of not wanting to fail, I think those things in a lot of ways have impeded me. So those are the areas that I'm trying to grow in that I think are definitely helping me in my business. Is, basically Alton has to grow and get my head screwed on straight so that I can, like you said, John, take it to that next level.
What would you say, Mike?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I can answer this way, but you're both right. And I really wanted to pick one of you, but you really are both. You're both right. It's you in some ways you said the same thing, that success is here, right? And not letting it be outside of you. Quitting you're right. The school system today was built to make factory workers that show up at a certain time and go home at a certain time. And they try to strive as much as they can to perfection and regurgitate, facts that their supervisor already knows, and it comes back to them like that's what. And so that's for a long time, that's going to be the people out there that are going to judge you or accept you or not accept you. And so you got to understand that we're unicorns. As much as as entrepreneurs, we're revered and we're, loved and all those things on Shark Tank. But at the end of the day, we make them feel uncomfortable too by going this way and breaking from the herd. And when you do that, you just got to understand that not everybody's going to understand you or your decision and why you're doing what you're doing. But and not everybody has this, but if you have that voice inside you that says, I want more, I feel like adventurous, but I feel held back, but I've got this sense of security that I need, that my parents taught me that I need to provide for my kids and my family, and the sense of security is all that matters, then you need to take a second look, because the biggest risk in life is to take no risks. Those will be the ones that you regret. When I talked about on your deathbed, you're laying there, you're looking back that I did the best I could with the time I have. You're not going to regret the risks you took. You're only going to regret the risks you didn't take and the chances you didn't take and what could have happened. That's what you're going to be thinking about. So don't let that happen. If you've got it in you, go out there and give it a shot. Know you're going to make mistakes. You're going to bounce around, and that's part of the fun. It's part of the learning process. And in the end, it'll all be worth it. And if things go really well, then you can, make your dreams come through experiences or just giving it all back to great causes, whatever it is that brings you joy. But you'll be able to do things you would never have been able to do inside of a structure that's only going to give you the minimum amount of what you need to stick around. And then you're going to find yourself old and without, the fulfillment maybe that you could have had or the resources that you could have had in that same period of time or less possibly. So,
yeah. Oh, I love that. Love that, Mike. Thanks.
I think he won.
No, it was great, man.
Dropped the contest. Okay, I think.
Dang. I feel like we need to go to a
I'm
workshop.
Show you guys the grip, right?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is the LoveHandle Pro, and see if I can make sure you guys can see it. A little bit wider. Now this is on a wallet case. And a little hint to what's coming later, but this is just a wallet case. This company's from Austin, so
oh wow,
they make these cases.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But anyway,
so people listening, it's a credit card holding device.
It's like a plastic
on the
phone case, right? With where you can slide your credit cards in the back, right?
Yep.
Is that describing it well?
Yep, that's exactly right. Slide your credit cards in. So now I haven't had a wallet in years because I just carry my stuff here, cash in the pocket, and I'm good to go. It's always give me a pain in the back. But the grip that you're seeing, so I'll try to describe it. It's a little bit wider. So this one's, I would say, is about 1.5 inches wide.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bow tie shaped, if you will, and a bit. And the difference with this one is not only is it a little bit bigger, a little more manly, right? But the key is that it has a kickstand feature built in.
Oh, that's what I need.
Now you want to record a Instagram Live or TikTok video, or if you want to watch a YouTube video, you're ready to go. Plus it's magnetic, right? So I can stick it to anything metal or to our new mount. Check this mount. So you can put this mount in your car, stick that on there, rotate wherever you want to do, like that, and it comes right off. And then you still can flip it around the back and, hold a cold beverage or back over like so. The strap is interchangeable, so you can actually swap the strap. It's just watch pins here. So you can change the strap out. It's like watch pins in the base, so you can change it to be a new style or change it from, you could put your Astros in today because it's opening day or whatever.
Well, we're still hoping the Cowboys are going to beat the Texans.
It's called the LoveHandle Pro. It'll launch on Kickstarter in about 6 weeks. And we didn't talk much about Kickstarter, but that's a great way to launch because you're not giving up any equity. You're just taking pre-orders. And my goal is to raise about $2 million on Kickstarter for this product. And that will allow us to set up all our automation, all our tooling, and then create us a mass of customers from day one.
Look, Mike, I'm not even going to lie. I was waiting for the 1-800 number so I could get my order.
I mean, that was the whole thing I started talking about is I got the kickstand on my phone, so I couldn't get your product. Well, now I have no reason not to.
Man, Mike's
no
got
reason
this thing
whatsoever. So yeah, we'll stay in touch and it's, I'm going to need some early testers, for the market. So.
Yeah. You know what? I was also going to say, hey, Mike, let me critique this because that's a black one and I want mine to have a Texas flag and then boom. Hey, just change it out. Just swap it out.
I'm still going with the deciding factor.
He's winning.
I'm still going with the deciding factor. Okay. Well, Mike, it has been so much fun. I am so glad you joined us. I was really shocked that you were going to join us on the show, and it has been a great one, to say the least.
Yeah, Mike's slumming it, but we appreciate you. And as a fellow Texan, it's good stuff. Love having you on.
I'll give you a giggle this time.
All right. Hey, look at that. You don't see that very often.
All right. You have a good one. And
I really enjoyed the time with you guys.
Absolutely. Everybody listening, thank you for listening. And make sure you click like and subscribe to everything. And we'll talk to y'all soon.
This has been another episode of The Deciding Factor, giving you food for thought on real life issues. Be sure to click, like, and subscribe to this podcast, as well as all your big social media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to check out our website at thedecidingfactorpodcast.com and give us comments and feedback. Until next time, stay safe and remember to keep an open mind.